Hello, so today we're going to talk about Bitcoin. So, the topic of discussion is Bitcoin in 2023 and what you need to know. So, for the present day current events, we're going to take a little deeper dive and looking into that. So, with the US banking crisis, much debate has surrounded how reliable is living your money in a bank, How reliable are banks? And international users from around the world have, lost a lot of money in the Silicon Valley bank collapse. And so, this collapse is, one of the largest banks to fail in the United States since 2008 financial crisis. And so, exacerbating the issue more, there's a lot of top executives that sold stocks totaling millions of dollars in late February, just before the collapse. And so, while users and the public are accruing losses, the top executives sell and realize gains. And so that is the problem today. We do have a government that says, and insists that the banking system is safe, and then, SVB fails and collapses. And so the UK has lost a lot of money with this bank collapsing, and others as well. And so soon after these gains, that the executives realized when they sold their stocks just before the collapse, the US government stepped in and said, we're going to mitigate the situation by promising to bail out SVB customers, but only to a certain extent. Some may say that while the bank wins, the customers are the ones accruing all the losses. So this structure doesn't, seem broken at all, right? Looks like, the US taxpayers will get to flip the bill on the bank collapse, fostering a structure where we all lose when one bank collapses. And so, don't worry. While the staff serving the bank may lose their jobs on top of this, the top executives, they get to sleep at night, enjoying their steep payouts and, selling their stock shares leading just up to the collapse. They've probably made a ton of money as we all lose. So this means, instead of paying their much relied upon clientele all these dollars, instead they're reaping the profits, and, they only look at least partially unethical. So, about the banks, as you can see where I'm going with that, I'm not so sure how safe your money is when you place your money into a bank, because, a bank can collapse. They can file bankruptcy, and, the top executives may sell their stocks in their, bank, but the people that truly are impacted are the staff lower end on the totem pole, or the customers, or even government taxpayers for that account. And so, instead of putting your money into a bank, a lot of people are shifting over to Bitcoin. And so, what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a decentralized digital currency that operates without a central bank or single administrator. It is volatile and it can fluctuate significantly over a short period, but some people find this as a tantalizing reason to jump in. And so, you may buy low today only to gain maximum returns tomorrow. Gains that have historically been created by multimillionaires within the most truncated time frames are really, opening up everyone's eyes to what other systems are in place that, we can invest our money in. And so with the volatility can create opportunity. And so there are a lot of millionaires that have been created through Bitcoin. And what's interesting about Bitcoin is that you can, gain these successes in a really short amount of time. So it really establishes a very unique opportunity if you play your cards right and, go into Bitcoin in an informed way, doing your research and everything. So there also is a lot of buy-in to Bitcoin and the success of Bitcoin, which, makes sense when you see there are a lot of people that are successful with Bitcoin. Usually the people that don't do so well are the people that have not done so much research and they just don't know enough and they haven't experienced enough quite yet. And so with regards to the buy-in, there's a lot of countries that are really going all in. And I think the United States can be doing more. Instead, they're trying to halt and, impact Bitcoin as a investment. And so, for example, the country of El Salvador is really heavily buying into Bitcoin. El Salvador's leader has purchased Bitcoin for the last few years near its highs of $58,000. And regardless of their 2022 and 2021 losses, they are still very enthusiastic. And their leader says that they will buy 1 Bitcoin every day, according to the country's leader, Nayib Bukele. So this sounds like a very bullish behavior that is not just on the rise, but also consistently maintained by those who extensively believe in the value and spread of Bitcoin as a financial system. And so, Bitcoin does have significant risks, especially for new investors, but people investing in well-known stock market have similar risks. And, until you understand the system and do your research, gains may be challenging, unless, of course, you buy at the bottom when the risks are substantially offset by the potential for gains. And so, you can just buy at the bottom strategically. Right now, everything is pretty low across all markets. For the stock market and for Bitcoin. Also, real estate may be a little bit pricey nowadays, but I always recommend buying real estate. So with regards to investing in crypto, yes, it may be a little bit less reliable than real estate. Or the stock market, but again, the volatility can be a benefit to you if you really understand the system. I think investing in Bitcoin has a lot of potential, and there are a lot of countries that are really establishing themselves within the Bitcoin world, and with that loyalty, the value of Bitcoin should only rise in the long term. Especially. And so your risks can be mitigated with a little bit of education, and your gains can be more countless and extensive given the right strategy and the right time frame. So there's no guarantee that the value of Bitcoin will go up over time, and most people say if you're predicting Bitcoin's value, then you probably have no clue. But the reality is that, most people that invest in Bitcoin really truly see that it will rise over time. And if you really believe in something that much, then why not invest? Now, if you don't believe in it and you don't believe in it going up, then maybe you should not invest in Bitcoin. So here's a little bit more into the banks and how they failed us. So It's well known that the banks offer lower returns on investments than other types of investments. For example, a CD typically gains much lower returns than the stock market or real estate, while also combating the risks of inflation, which are pervasive, especially today. So, inflation is on a huge rise today, and it's really a pretty big issue. And so, over time, inflation can erode away the value of your assets and the gains that you're trying to make. Banks typically offer low interest rates that may not keep up with inflation, and that's exactly what happens with a CD. They're just really not worth your time or effort. They're not rising fast enough or enough in general to combat the rise in inflation. You're really not making any money on that. Just like how you're not making money by leaving your money in your checking account, there's just so much more that you could be doing. And so banks, they typically offer too low of an interest rate for your gains. They charge excessive fees. And, they may give you personalized advice, but usually it's often at a cost. And, financial advisors, they can be fiduciaries and be forced and required to have your best interest at hand. But in reality, they actually don't have your best interest at heart. And, fiduciaries, they're only required by requirements to ensure that you have some gains, but it's not required of them to ensure that you have maximum gains and maximum profits. So yes, going to a fiduciary is great. They will ensure that you're winning to the best of their ability, but they're not going to ensure that you're going to win maximum gains. And so, when you're investing your money and trying to grow your money, don't invest in, some gains. Put your money where you can get the most gains, and reduce the most amount of risk. You want to maximize your growth and reduce your risks. And a fiduciary, they'll make sure that they've got your best interest at heart, but they're not going to have your best interest at heart fully to get you the maximum gains that you can get. So if you don't know anything about money, maybe you should get a fiduciary or, get a financial advisor to oversee your money and help you out and support you. But I also recommend just, diving into it and really building your understanding for yourself, having control of your own money and your own investments, and try to seek maximizing your profits. Take control of your finances and the math and your investments and the gains, and try to go through it in an academic, research-based way. It's great to have support systems and support from financial advisors, but make sure you are seeking maximum gains and really ensuring that your money is placed in the best optimal place. So historically, Bitcoin has, started, being invested in 2009, and it didn't really have much, if any, value. It wasn't traded much in 2009, and it had a very low value of under a cent. So, in 2010, Bitcoin a transaction took place for the first time, where a purchase of 2 pizzas was used at the very low value of less than $0.003 of value. Basically, they had to utilize a lot of Bitcoin to create enough money for that pizza. But basically, from there in 2010, Bitcoin rose to about 30 cents all the way to $31 by June before it crashed down to $2. In 2012, Bitcoin price was pretty stable with a low of $4 and a high of $13. And then in 2013, Bitcoin went all the way up from $13 to $260 in April before it crashed down to $45. And then it went all the way up to $1,242. And so this is how you see, in 2013, that volatility is really establishing itself. But the gains are crazy. So, going down to 45 and then all the way up to 1,200, that's pretty crazy. So in 2014, we had it decline to $300 by the end of the year. And in 2015, Bitcoin was pretty stable, around $200 to $300. And then in 2016, Bitcoin climbed to $1,000 approximately. And in 2017, it went on a surge from the $1,000 all the way to nearly $20,000. And so again, those surges of increase in the Bitcoin value have probably made a lot of millionaires in 2017. So in 2018, Bitcoin did crash to around $3,000 through steady declines. And 2019, Bitcoin was pretty stable around 3,000 and 14,000. And in 2020, Bitcoin surged to its all-time highs, new all-time highs at 29,000 approximately. And again, for it to go, from just 3,000 the year before all the way to 29,000, that's pretty crazy. And then in 2021, Bitcoin continued to go up to new all-time highs of $64,863. And so I think this is where all the hype and enthusiasm happens with Bitcoin, because in 2021, Bitcoin rising all the way to 64,000 is pretty extensive. Especially when just 2 years ago it was at $3,000. And so from the $64,000 high, Bitcoin did decline, which is pretty normal. And it went all the way down to $15,787. That is a 77% decline from exactly 1 year earlier, where it was 67,800. And so, you could see that Bitcoin does have its volatility. It does go all up pretty extensively, and it does have its, falls as well. And, the fluctuations may be affected by regulatory changes, news events, social media, market sentiment. There's a lot of different things that can affect Bitcoin and the rises and the falls. But while, Bitcoin's price is extremely volatile, present day increases in crypto values are realized, even after the SVB collapse. And so many investors are really bullish today because of the failures with the banks. And, it just comes to show that Bitcoin may be a little bit better of an option than we all previously realized. And so a lot of people are really excited to see where the rest of 2023 will take us, especially with several banks collapsing at this time, not just SVB. And so some final thoughts, if you're not sure about investing in Bitcoin at this time, maybe you can gain some entertainment by, browsing the different apps and websites and, just researching and checking out some YouTube videos. There's a lot of low-cost marketing going on right now. For example, there's a Bitcoin billionaire game app on Google Play, which I kind of find super entertaining because, these little apps, these games, they're just marketing Bitcoin, and, Bitcoin is already pretty established all over the world, and it's only going to become more established, and more people are going to find out about it, and more people are going to gain access to it. It's not like the US dollar where, mostly people in the US have it. No, Bitcoin is all over the place, and as more and more countries get involved with Bitcoin, the value is only going to increase over time as more people get involved. And I personally think that the US is a little bit behind on the times with regards to Bitcoin. I kind of wish that our regulations would, establish a path forward for Bitcoin. We shouldn't be like bailing out banks. We shouldn't be using personal tax dollars that we pay into to bail out a bank, which, their practices are, not really the best anyway. They're like making gains, the top executives, and then their bank is getting, bailed out in the end, and it's all being bailed out with, tax dollars. And so, I've not invested in SVB, but the fact that government money is being utilized to, bail out that bank, I'm a little bit upset. Spend my money a different way, please. I pay taxes, and, put my money and my taxes towards something better than a bank bailout. Why don't we, support Bitcoin and establish a path forward for it, and regulatory standards, and reduce risk, and, improve upon the processes. There's no reason why we can't do that. Especially since there are people that are investing in Bitcoin, so I think we should really pave a path forward today. And with all the marketing that's going for Bitcoin, I think that there are a lot of ways that Bitcoin can have a lot of potential for us and society as a whole, worldwide. So if we, improve upon the system for Bitcoin and make it even more reliable and user-friendly with time, then we could have something pretty amazing. I think the technology has a lot of potential. And so, there is no guarantee that the value will appreciate over time, but, I personally think that it is very likely, very, very likely that it will appreciate over time. There's no guarantee that your research will not lead you astray with regards to Bitcoin, but I can guarantee that the more you research, you will learn a lot more. But the more educational research that you do, the less risk that you will be exposed to, because, with being more informed, you'll have less chances of making mistakes. You will have learned from mistakes, and you will learn from the mistakes of others. And so you'll really reduce risks by really, researching and getting into, understanding Bitcoin and how to invest in this system. So, the best path in my eyes is to take action and simply do your best to focus on credible technical experts who are already successful in the arena that you wish to try. And so, if you want to be an expert in something or find success, follow someone who is an expert and has found success. So I recommend learning more about technology and navigating the exchanges and the wallets securely. It's difficult to determine the exact number of people who are investing in Bitcoin today, but I think it's clear that the number is growing, and the popularity and awareness of Bitcoin is only rising. And so, be sure to seek advice from financial experts before making investment decisions, and, really do your research and be informed before you take actions. But, do take actions, because investing in banks and putting your money in a bank may not have the best gains. And so there's a lot of different options in this world to invest in. And there's a lot of options that can definitely make you a lot more gains than putting your money into different banking systems. And so I would really recommend, working with financial experts and really gaining a better understanding of where you're putting your money, and, put your money strategically in different aspects of your portfolio. Diversify your portfolio, and, make careful decisions on where you're investing. So, thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.